Funding for this edition of Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico has been provided by PSEG Foundation, New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, lighting the way to a clean energy future. The Turrell Fund, a foundation serving children. Newark Board of Education. Johnson & Johnson. United Airlines. Atlantic Health System, making healthy easier. Rowan University, proudly serving New Jersey for 100 years. And by Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, keeping communities informed and connected. And by BestOfNJ.com, all New Jersey in one place.
Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico for the team at Remember Them. Jacqui, we remember Luther Vandross, one of the greatest R&B singers of all time, one of the greatest performers of all time. And we interviewed Dawn Porter, who put together this film, directed this film, Luther, Never Too Much. I've been doing this, obviously, for a long time. It's one of the most enjoyable, on a personal and professional level, interviews I've ever done because my wife and I are huge fans of Luther Vandross. And Dawn Porter, if you haven't seen this film, see it. She got it right. She got Luther right. What'd you take away, Jacqui?
I know this is someone that you've been really wanting to honor on this series, Remember Them, for quite some time. So Dawn was the perfect person to bring on to talk about Luther Vandross because of the time and dedication she put into that documentary. Thousands of hours of rehearsal footage and sketches from Vandross, notes, letters. I mean, she just went through all of it to make sure that she got it right. And I really think she did. And I know you felt like you did too. Luther had a connection here in New Jersey. He passed away in Edison, New Jersey, and he is buried here in Paramus, New Jersey. And he gave us in New Jersey wonderful music that we all hold on to so dear, that has really, crossed barriers, crossed generations, not just here in New Jersey, but obviously throughout the country and throughout the world. Yeah.
One of the things that Dawn Porter talked about that was very interesting for me, and the fact that Luther's sexuality is a very small part of the film, and it's dealt with in a very, very poignant way. But the part of it that really struck me was, think about this, by the way, Luther Vandross was one of the greatest singers when it came to, and performers and writers, when it came to love songs. But you hear Dawn Porter talk about the fact that Luther Vandross never really found love. And the song that she refers to, Any Love, for those who can appreciate Luther Vandross, you know the song, Any Love, and she puts in perspective why that song matters so much. Because to Luther, he was looking for any love. And to come up at the time he did, and to not be able to be open about his sexuality and have a relationship, the irony of that, the paradox of that, for so many of us who fell in love with our partners listening to Luther Vandross, that he didn't have that, is sad and tragic in a lot of ways. But there's so many positive parts of his life as well that Dawn talks about. Hey, we're going to honor, recognize, and remember the one and only, they call Sinatra the voice. This was a different kind of voice, but he was a voice in his own right. The great, late Luther Vandross.
You only come across an artist like Luther Vandross once in a lifetime.
I just decided to focus my entire life into music.
He was a boss from the beginning. He had a vision of how he wanted it to go down, and that's the way it went down.
We're now honored to be joined by Dawn Porter, who was the director of an extraordinary film, Luther, Never Too Much, remembering the great, iconic Luther Vandross. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for this extraordinary film.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's great to see you.
You know, when there's a funder who is a funder of a program and we're somehow connected to it, I disclose, I say full disclosure. So I'll disclose this. Like millions and millions of others, my wife and I fell in love, which is why one of my favorite, Luther Vandross, the night I fell in love, fell in love listening to Luther Vandross, back in the day, if you will. What was it about Luther Vandross that just listening to him just moved people in so many ways, not just individually, but together?
Your story is the story of so many people. And when I was thinking about what project to do next, I usually do a lot of political films, films about the criminal justice system, criminal legal system. And I was really in the mood for something that brought people together. And Luther is just the embodiment of that as an artist. I think that he wrote from his not just his personal experience, but his personal humanity and his personal imagination. And I think that that is something that, crosses racial, gender, any lines you can create, he crossed them. And his music really does kind of settle deeply with people. It makes you introspective, makes you happy, makes you thoughtful. And that's really just our humanity. And I think that that is really his universal appeal.
I'm watching the film, which I did watch with my wife. I wanted to have that experience together. And we saw him at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in the mid-90s. And I remember thinking about this when I was watching the film. One of the songs, and there's so many songs that your film brings to life and helps me understand, and millions of others who saw the film. And by the way, let's put up the website so people can find out where they can see it. The song Any Love.
Before I started making the film, I liked Any Love. It's a great song. It's just an iconic, terrific song. And when we, in the process of doing our research and doing interviews, learned that that song is what Luther described as his most autobiographical. His bass player, Marcus Miller, and his assistant, both described how personal that was for him. And so it takes on a deeper meaning, but it is now my favorite song of his as well, because he was so clearly telling us about his life experience. And yet he was doing it with such a beauty and purity of art and skill. And so it is really just a masterpiece, of the art form.
Ironic is not the appropriate word. It doesn't do justice to it. But to be an artist, a singer, a writer, performer, producer, so much more. But his songs that people fell in love listening to. Any Love, for me, as I was watching the film, I kept thinking the irony, the paradox, the something cruel almost about it, that he couldn't or did not find that love, but helped so many others. To what degree did that resonate for you?
It was, there's a lot of joy in this film, and there's a lot of joy in Luther's life.
Right.
And one of the things that I tried to do as a director is let Luther come through himself. Like, I literally felt like I knew him after we watched hundreds of interviews and archival pieces. And when he shares kind of the heartbreak that he experiences, you experience it with him. And I think he gave, you started this interview saying you and your wife have this shared experience, and he gave that experience to so many people. that, we want that experience for him. And so, what I'm pleased about is that, um, in his sharing of his heartbreak, um, he lets people in, and he lets people, and so many people have expressed their love for him and their desire that he experienced the joy and the happiness that he gave to so many people through his music. So it is heartbreaking. It's bittersweet, I think, is what I think about it.
Don, one of the really exceptional things that you did in the film was how the film handles Luther Vandross's sexuality. I was having this conversation with my wife, and I said, if Luther had been born 20, 30 years later, it might have been very different, because he was born in New York, came from a very traditional, close family, extremely close to his mom. His dad died when he was very young. He couldn't come out. He couldn't. He didn't believe he could. But you chose not to obsess over it or spend a lot of time with it, and some others commented on it. And I know there's been some controversy because I believe Patti LaBelle made some comments in the film about that, that some folks are not pleased with. That being said, your approach to Luther Vandross's sexuality, why did you handle it that way, and why was it so important that you handled it that way? Because I found it very powerful.
Thank you. We cut that scene so many different ways in so many different times. As a filmmaker, it's really important to me and this is not a matter of agreeing or disagreeing, but however I feel about a particular topic, it's important to me to honor the subject's feelings. And part of our role as filmmakers is to allow you to experience what they feel, and you can think what you think about it. But, when I think about, there's a lot of conversations we're having now about bodily integrity and personal choice. And I feel like this was his personal choice. And, I choose to be heartbroken for him that he didn't feel he had another choice. But in the end, I thought the most powerful and the most honest way to approach to his own private life was to let him, as his best friend Fonzie says, to let him have the last word. And so that's what we chose to do. Look, do I wish that Luther was here today and could see just, kind of, we're certainly far from a perfect and perfectly tolerant society, but we are so much exponentially better. And so many people are living full and active, open lives. And I wish that he could see that. I deeply wish that he could see that. And I wish that he could experience that freedom. But it is part of his story that he did not and could not. And so that's, we chose to let him speak for himself, which I think is usually the right way to go. Let people have their own words.
So Luther was born in 1951. He died what year?
He died in 2005.
Had a stroke, treated actually at JFK in New Jersey, I believe in Edison, New Jersey. And he actually did an interview. There's an interview in the film, and please watch this film. There's an interview that he does after. Is it with Oprah?
It is with Oprah. Yeah, it is the last, kind of major media interview that he did. Yeah, it is, Oprah is one of the great interviewers of all time. And, that's certainly on display in this interview that she does with him. And he would, they were friends. She just loved him.
This is what I'm curious about. Background singer for Bette Midler, the David Bowie part, Young Americans, and the part of the film, again, watch it. There are people who can appreciate David Bowie. You say David Bowie and Luther Vandross, the classic R&B. You go, no, that doesn't work. Watch the film and you'll see it. How much for you, Dawn Porter, watching the interaction between that Luther Vandross, who was not a star, but a background singer, producer, and what he did to that song and his interaction with Bowie, and Bowie pushing him to be out front, to be the star? Bette Midler pushing him to be out front, Barbara Streisand, so many others pushing him to be out front. Why is that part of the film? Luther, from background singer, producer, I'll make this happen for you, I'm not the star, to being out front.
Yeah. That was one of the Bowie footage in particular. I just never get tired of watching that footage. And you are literally seeing the birth of a star. Luther wasn't even supposed to be in that session. He is, and he casually, kind of sings a line, which David Bowie hears, and then invites him to be part of the session. And then ultimately, Luther Vandross ends up arranging Bowie's first American album with Bowie. He's in his 20s. So it says certainly a great deal about Luther's talent. It also says something about David Bowie and about him as an artist and a person. And we hear so many stories about Black artists being, kind of taken advantage of by famous white artists. And Bowie did the opposite. He literally pushed Luther in front.
Sorry for interrupting.
Had him.
Didn't he make him open for him? He made
him open for him.
And Luther was saying in the film,
"What are you doing? You're trying to kill me.
Where's David Bowie?" And Bowie, I think in the film, says to him, "No, you need to do this to become who you could." I'm sorry.
1,000%. And David Bowie would go on to continue to push forward artists, particularly Black artists. He calls out, MTV for not having Black artists. So Bowie is a spectacular human. But what I also really love about this story is I'm not a musician. I can't sing. I can't, do any of those like creative arts. But what you see is literally how art happens. You see one artist recognizing something in another and saying, let's do this together. And there's a transformation that happens before our eyes. You see the birth of this new sound for David Bowie. You see the birth of Luther's career. You see Luther start to envision what his career can be.
That's
and
right.
You see all of that. And that is really the power of this story and the power of film. And so it's one of the great joys that I had really in making this movie.
As a young boy growing up in New York, and by the way, there's a PBS connection. We're affiliated with PBS. And he was with the group. He performed, was it on Sesame Street?
He was on the first episodes of Sesame Street, and we have the footage.
They did watch
He's
the
rapping the alphabet and the numbers.
And the numbers, but he's in the back. And by the way, his being big, a big part of the film, a big part of his story, a big part of why he wanted or believed he was a background singer, not out front, but pushed by others, including Dionne Warwick. His relationship with Dionne Warwick, particularly the footage that you have, was it the
NAACP Image Awards? Yeah. And he salutes her. Luther had a lifelong love and admiration, particularly for these Black female vocalists.
The Supremes?
The Supremes, Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, Roberta Flack. Because we have this footage, you see what, this is like what gets me so excited about making movies is he tells us, I loved Dionne Warwick. I loved Aretha Franklin. And so we put that footage in so, you could kind of, from his point of view as a young kid, see what he was seeing. And then later, when you see his concert and you see the elegance of the outfits that he designed, you immediately think he's channeling Dionne right here. When you see his vocal, just prowess, you see him channeling Aretha. You see him literally paying homage to these women. And so the movie is also a celebration of these women and of Black, music and all of the influences that kind of swim together and make this, kind of joyous, experience for everybody.
Don't give me 30 seconds on why the subtitle "Never Too Much," one of his great songs.
I one of the hardest choices we had to make was what songs to include. And there's just, you can never get too much of Luther. And everybody in my life came to me with their, my mother, I know you're going to include this song. Our composer, Robert Glasper, one of the great musicians of our time, you have to include this song. So, it's an apology for those of you whose favorite songs are not in it. I will tell you, like, this is one of the perks of being the director. I get to pick. They're all my favorite songs. So there you go. We have Sony released a greatest hits album, which is really all the songs from the movie and an unreleased recording of the Beatles song, Michelle. And it is a beautiful vinyl tribute to Luther. So I have so enjoyed people rediscovering Luther. And one of the greatest, thank yous to him is that people are seeing the movie and then they bring their family members. They're going with their parents or their spouses. And in this time when so much feels divisive, it is so wonderful to see people going to theaters and singing along. People clap in the theater after some of his performances. And that's the kind of joy that he brought, to so many of us. And so it was just really a joy to make this film.
John, how can people see the film? We saw it on New Year's Day on
Yikes.
CNN. No, hey, listen, by the way, credit to CNN. They did a great job. I will say this, for months, Dawn, leading up to it, I said, when is this film coming out? And they were just promoting it. And we also ran the clip in the beginning, a little bit of that promo. Is it on CNN on demand? Where?
So the film is in a number of places. There's actually going to be AMC theaters released it in theaters, and we had a theatrical run before CNN. They are going to announce very soon another limited theatrical because it was so popular. So you can go back to theaters. CNN, it's on demand, and it will be on Max, and it will also be on OWN because that is part of the
Oprah's
OWN CNN. Yeah, and Oprah does a really nice intro to the film too. It's great when Oprah calls you and says, you did the thing. So
did you, hold on, wait one second. It's one thing when I say it was special, but hold on one second. Oprah called you directly and said, Dawn Porter, you did it.
She did. Yes. She called me and she said, Gail and I are here and we love it.
Does it get any better?
It does not. It literally does not.
Oh my. Hey,
and I will tell you another fun fact is
please.
Oprah, because she is the most generous person, she really, truly is. People don't even know the depths of her generosity. She was hosting a number of people displaced by the fires. And she texted and said, can you send me the Luther movie? I want to bring some people. I want to do something nice for people. And so, she's the fabulous Miss O. And I'm so grateful that she's part of this.
Yeah, P.S. We're taping this toward the back end of January 2025. The fires in California are unspeakable. And the tragedy that people are experiencing. Put that in context. Can you do this for us? I only have a couple minutes left. Dance with My Father. It never resonated for me until I saw the film. I didn't get it. Why is it so important?
This Luther always tapped into his personal experience. And this is probably one of his most personal songs. He had a very loving family. His father was a brilliant singer. Those childhood memories that you have, we only have like select few. It's the most important memories. And one of his most important joyous memory is of his father carrying him up the stairs. Can you think of a more loving kind of interaction between a parent and child, the safety that you feel? And when you understand the heartbreak that Luther experienced and the isolation that he sometimes experienced, going back to this idea of the safety of this parent. So he wrote this song about he wishes he could dance with his father just one more time. He fought with his record company to have it released, and then it becomes the ultimate thing that he always wanted professionally, which is his number one pop song. And it is so heartbreaking that he had had his stroke and so couldn't fully appreciate that he had finally achieved that last professional accomplishment. He had gone to the top of the pop charts after for so long not being able to cross over, and with that song.
In a minute we have left. By the way, Dawn is a Medal of Honor winner. awarded by President Joe Biden. Congratulations, Dawn.
Thank you so much.
Let me do this last question. Do you think when Luther Vandross passed that he had any real sense of how loved he was?
I think that Luther had the most incredible close circle of friends, and they stayed with him through life. I think he certainly felt that personal
All the way back
love.
to the Apollo. I'm sorry, all the way back to the
All the
Apollo.
way back to the
Because
Apollo.
I'm sorry, Don. Go ahead.
Yes, no, but that's important because he made those friends and he kept them throughout his life. I certainly know that he appreciated his audiences. I'm not sure though. I was recently in South Africa. I have heard from people literally all over the world who are saying, "Can we please see this film?" So I don't know that do we ever know, what we really mean to people? I'm not sure. But I know now what he meant to people. His friends and family know. And, I'm really happy about that.
Dawn Porter, he was very close to folks his entire life. And he was also in the film. It's clear how much he cares, not just about excellence and the excellence of those on his team, but how he treated them as human beings. It's an incredible film, and it was worth waiting for. And you need to go see it if you loved Luther Vandross, if you heard of Luther Vandross, if you sort of knew but didn't really know, watch the film. It's about more than great music and a great musician and a great star, and that is because of an extraordinary filmmaker. Dawn, you honor us by being with us, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's terrific to be here. Montclair pride.
Yeah, we in Montclair, we brag about Dawn Porter. She's ours. You're ours.
16 years. I love that town so much.
You honor us. Thank you, Dawn. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
I'm Steve Adubato. There will only be one Luther Vandross. See you next time.
Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PSEG Foundation, New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, the Turrell Fund, a foundation serving children, Newark Board of Education, Johnson & Johnson, United Airlines, Atlantic Health System, Rowan University, and by Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by bestofnj.com. To see more Remember Them programs, visit us online at rememberthemnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and at facebook.com/Jacqui Tricarico. And follow us on X at Steve Adubato.
Since 1903, PSEG has worked to keep our commitment to customers and communities, to keep your lights on and homes warm. We're there when challenges strike, like storms or economic uncertainty. We're preparing for tomorrow by working to replace aging infrastructure, provide carbon-free nuclear energy, and deliver energy-efficient options to customers. PSEG, powering progress.
Nork and rolls. Let me break it down quick. For students in transition, it's the perfect pick. Parents get to choose the right school for their kid based on needs consideration, no matter where you live. So visit the school, see what they're all about. Explore the campus, remove any doubt. Narrow down your choices to the top 8 and submit your app now, cause there's no need to wait. Bars. Head to norkandrolls.org and get started today.
New Jersey is leading the nation in clean energy investments with one thing in mind: you. Our clean energy program offers more ways than ever to help you save energy and money throughout your home. Visit njcleanenergy.com for rebates and home efficiency tips that can help you start saving right away. And discover how our investments in your local community mean a more sustainable New Jersey today and a brighter energy future for us all. Learn more at njcleanenergy.com. A message from New Jersey Board of Public Utilities.